What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the channel, and in today's video we're going to be predicting the 2025 NFL playoffs. And this is definitely going to be a longer intro because I have to kind of explain what's going on here. I made NFL predictions for every single team. I predicted every single game. I did all those separately. So all these, brackets and stuff that I have set up are based on that. And I'm going to factor in the Micah Parsons trade as well, just because of how big of a trade that was. And starting off with the AFC North, I have the Steelers winning it at 12-5, the Ravens at 11-6, the Bengals at 10-7, and the Browns at 4-13. And I have the Steelers with the 2 seed and the Ravens with the 5 seed. And I have the Bengals missing the playoffs for the 3rd straight year. And obviously the Browns are going to miss the playoffs considering how poor their record is. And moving on to the NFC North, I actually still have the Lions winning the division. I have the Packers in 2nd with the same record, the Vikings at 10-7, and the Bears at 5-12. And you might notice that I have asterisks for all these teams. And the reason I have these is because these records were impacted by the Micah Parsons trade. And because I did all of my predictions before that trade happened, and that's why these records are going to be different than what they were in those videos. And I had the Lions at the 1 seed originally at 12-5. I have them at 13-4. And the Packers, I had them at 9-8 and missing the playoffs. I have them at 13-4. I had the Vikings at 11-6 at I believe the 5 seed, and now they're down to the 6 seed, and I had the Bears at 6-11, and they're at 5-12. Alright, and moving to the AFC South, these records were not impacted by the Micah Parsons trade, and I actually have the Jags winning the division at 10-7, having them at the 4 seed, and I have the Texans narrowly missing the playoffs at 9-8. I just think their team is not going to be as good as people think it will be this year. And since the Jags already have Brian Thomas Jr., who is unbelievable, their defense is pretty good. They're bringing in Travis Hunter. They're bringing in Liam Cohen, who I think is really going to help out Trevor Lawrence. I think this is going to be a year where the Jags surprise some people. And then the Colts and the Titans. I mean, the Colts, I really don't think they're going to be that good considering they have Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. And then the Titans were the worst team last year, and I think they will improve, but not by much. Alright, and heading to the NFC South, none of these records are impacted by the Micah Parsons trade either. I have the Bucs in 1st place, the Falcons and Panthers are tied for 2nd and 3rd, and the Falcons, I think they got it over the division record. I think that's the tiebreaker that they got over the Panthers, and then obviously the Saints are going to be out of this picture at 1-16. I mean, this is what it comes down to. I think, obviously, I really don't think the Saints are going to be good considering how bad the record is. The Panthers still don't have the greatest defense, and I think Bryce Young will be better than he was last year, at least before he had the second half resurgence he had. I think it'll be better, but I don't think it's going to be enough for the Panthers to make the playoffs. The Falcons, they're a wild card. I could see them making the playoffs, but at the same time, I really don't trust Raheem Morris. And also, Michael Penix Jr. at this point in time is a bit too much of a wild card for me to trust the Falcons. And then the Bucs, I think, are going to be pretty good this year. I have them as the 3 seed, sitting at 11-6. They'll make playoffs, obviously, and we'll see what they do there. Alright, and at the AFC East, we have the Buffalo Bills winning it, obviously, at 13-4, the Dolphins at 9-8, the Patriots on 3rd at 2nd-10, and the Jets at 4th and 4-13. And here's the thing, I mean, it's really the Bills' division to lose, and I really don't see any of these teams being good enough to do that, unless the Bills have like a catastrophically bad year, which I really don't see them having. I think they're easily going to win this division, and I have them the 1 seed. This is actually going to be the first time, if this happens, that the Bills would be the 1 seed in the Josh Allen era. And then the Dolphins, they're 9-8 just because they're just too much of a they're too much of a mystery, and not really in a good way, because I don't think Mike McDaniel's the greatest head coach. I don't think he is able to contain a locker room as well as you need to be able to as a head coach. And also, Tua has an injury history that's not great. The Patriots, I think, will be better, but at the same time, they still need to do some work. Because Drake May, I think he's going to be pretty decent this year, but it's not going to be enough to make the playoffs. That offense just needs some work. And then the Jets are the Jets. I really don't trust them in any situation, so I have them at 4-13. All right, and going to the NFC East, obviously we have some shakeup here because the Dallas Cowboys and the whole Micah Parsons thing. But the Eagles, I actually have them losing an extra game. I had them at 12-5. I have them at 11-6. Because I actually had them sweeping the Cowboys with Micah Parsons, and obviously I think they're going to do that anyway if he's not there. But they play the Packers this year, and I think the Packers are going to be the team that beats them, as opposed to what I said earlier. But it doesn't really matter because I still have them at the 2 seed, so it really doesn't affect them a whole lot. The Commanders, I have them winning one extra game because I had them splitting with the Cowboys. Now I think they're going to sweep the Cowboys and go from 8-9 to 9-8. Cowboys, I mean, they lost Micah Parsons. I had him at 9-8. I have them losing 3 extra games. I'm having losing one to the Commanders. I have them losing one to the Packers, and I have them losing the one to the Chargers, which I originally had them winning. But no Micah Parsons means they're not winning those games. And then the Giants are kind of their own thing. They're at 5-12. Their record didn't really change at all. And yeah, they're a mess. And yeah, this is the NFC East. All right, and we got the AFC West here. The Chiefs and the Raiders stayed the same despite the Micah trade. The Chiefs are at 11-6, winning this division with the 3 seed. The Chargers are actually the 6 seed at 11-6, and the Broncos are the 7 seed again at 10-7 again. And then the Raiders, they're improved from last year, but they're still nowhere near playoff contention as they're at 7-10. And, you know, I actually had the Broncos at 6 at 11-6, and I had the Chargers at 7 at 10-7. But good old Jerry Jones had to give away his best player for free, pretty much. And that implicates things because I think the Broncos will lose that game to the Packers that they play, and I think the Chargers will win against the game they have against the Cowboys. So yeah, there's that, and that's all I gotta say about that. And for the final division we'll be talking about, the NFC West, nothing changed here from my predictions. I still have the Seahawks winning it at 10-7, which definitely might shock some people. They're the 4 seed. I have the Rams at 10-7 at the 7 seed, and I have the 49ers and the Cardinals missing the playoffs at 9-8 and 6-11. And this division honestly could go any way. I have the Seahawks winning at the current moment just because I think they have a very underrated defense, and I think that's going to help them win a lot more games than people would think. And the Rams are obviously a team. I would not be shocked if any team won this division. I mean, I'd be shocked if the Cardinals won, but any of the 3 teams, the top 3 teams, they could all win this division. I mean, the records are pretty damn close, so that's all you got to hear about this. But yeah, unfortunately for the 49ers, I have them missing the cut. And yeah, with that out of the way, we'll get right to the playoff predictions. So for the wild card round in the AFC, the Broncos, the 7 seed, will be traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers, the 2 seed. The Chargers at the 6 seed will be taking on the Chiefs at the 3 seed, and then the Ravens will be taking on the Jags. And yeah, these should all be pretty good matchups. The Broncos and Steelers have good defenses. The Chargers and Chiefs both have really good quarterbacks, and they both have pretty good defenses too. Oh, and they're both in the AFC West, of course. And they play week 1, so a lot of turmoil there. And then Ravens and Jags, I really don't love that matchup just because I think the Ravens are going to win it pretty easily. Spoiler. And as for the results of this game, I'll get the Ravens one out of the way since I already talked about it. I think the only reason the Jags are going to make the playoffs, not the only reason, because they do have a team that's not bad, but they have a very easy schedule, and I think the Ravens are going to expose them since the Ravens are a Super Bowl contender, and the Jags are still kind of a rebuilding team. So I think the Ravens are going to win that one pretty easily. The Chiefs and the Chargers, that one I think you could really go either way, but it's just the Chiefs are the Chiefs, and they've been to the playoffs. They've been there, done that. And it's also the Chargers. I mean, Justin Herbert's kind of proven that he can't get it done in the playoffs. So because of that, I have the Chiefs winning 31-21. And then Broncos Steelers, I actually think that one's going to be pretty good. But it pains me to say this, but I do think the Steelers are going to win just because they're going to be at home. It's going to be a hostile environment for Bo Nix and the Broncos to go into. And, I mean, because of that, and I also do think Aaron Rodgers is going to go on a run for these playoffs, and I think it's going to start by beating the Broncos 21-17. All right, and for the NFC wild card, we have the Rams taking on the Eagles, the Vikings taking on the Buccaneers, and the Packers taking on the Seahawks. And it's honestly a bit similar to the other one. I think the Packers are going to crush the Seahawks just because the Seahawks, I don't have a whole lot of confidence for them in the playoffs as they get there. And for the Vikings and Bucks, I think that game could honestly go either way. And the Rams and the Eagles, they actually played each other last year in the playoffs, and that game was actually really close. So that game could go either way too. So we've got two good games and one not so great game. And the results, I mean, I'll start with Packers like I did the Ravens. I mean, Packers are a Super Bowl contender. I think it's safe to say that now. I think they're going to crush the Seahawks 31-10. The Vikings and Bucks, I actually going to pick the Vikings. I think that Todd Bowles has a tendency to not be the greatest play caller at times, and I think that's going to come back to haunt him in the playoffs, and I think the Vikings are going to win this one 20-16 with J.J. McCarthy. And the Eagles, I know this one's probably a lot closer than people would think, but the Rams, they're such a dangerous team when they get to the playoffs, but I still think the Eagles are going to take care of them just because they're at home and because of how stacked their roster is. So yeah, these are the results for the NFC wild card. All right, and for the AFC and the NFC divisional round, we're going to combine them just because, there's only 4 games. You have the Vikings taking on the Lions in an NFC North matchup. We have the Ravens taking on the Bills in a rematch of the last AFC divisional round, at least one of the games. You've got the Packers and the Eagles taking on each other, which was a rematch of the wild card round last year between those two teams. And then finally, you've got the Chiefs taking on the Steelers. And honestly, I think these are all pretty good games. I don't think any of these games are going to be like blowouts or anything. I think they're all going to be relatively close. I mean, you've got the NFC North rivalry, which is pretty good. You've got the Ravens and Bills, who have their rivalry of their own, considering they played each other last year in the playoffs. They're playing in Week 1. The Packers and Eagles actually played Week 1 last year and in the playoffs last year, and they're playing this year. So certainly some familiarity there. And then the Chiefs and the Steelers could honestly be a wild card just because they don't really have too much of a rivalry. But yeah, we'll see what I think on the next slide. And I guess we'll go top to bottom here since these are all pretty close games. I have the Lions winning 31-27. I mean, the thing is, the Lions, they're at home and they're playing against the Vikings. And I know that game could honestly go either way. But this is what I think is going to get the Lions to win. They lost last year when they were the 1 seed. They got first rounded. I think they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that does not happen again. And I don't think they're going to lose that game. I mean, I think it's going to be close, but I really don't think they're going to lose 2 years in a row as the 1 seed. I just don't think they're a type of team to do that. At least not now. Back in the day, same old Lions, but this is a new era, and I think they're going to prove that. I have the Bills winning 38-35. I mean, I hate to bash Lamar, but I definitely trust Josh Allen a lot more in the playoffs than I do Lamar Jackson, especially considering that it'll be in Buffalo for the 2nd year in a row. And for the Packers and Eagles, I actually have the Packers winning this game. I think Micah Parsons is going to haunt his old division rival Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs, and I think it's going to be enough to get the Packers over the Eagles. And then the shocker is I actually have the Steelers beating the Chiefs. The Steelers are going to be at home, and they're going to have Aaron Rodgers, who, to tell you the truth, I don't think he's as bad as people say he is. I mean, he's not as good as he used to be, but he's still a pretty damn good quarterback. I think the Steelers are going to shock the world and beat the Chiefs in that game. All right, and heading to the championship rounds, we have the Steelers taking on the Bills and the Packers taking on the Lions. I think Steelers-Bills is going to be pretty good. I mean, you've got two quarterbacks who have definitely had playoff experience in Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers. One has won a Super Bowl and one hasn't. And the Steelers have a really good defense, and the Bills have a really good offense with Josh Allen. So that one should be good. And then Packers and Lions, that one's going to be really good considering they're both NFC North rivals. They're both Super Bowl contenders. And I could see both games going either way. I mean, all these teams are pretty good. So we'll see what I think is going to happen. And the results of this game, I actually have both of the teams that are home winning this game. So that means we're going to have a Super Bowl between two 1 seeds, which is a little boring, but that's just what I think is going to happen. I think the Bills and Steelers are actually going to have a pretty high-scoring game, which is saying something considering how good the Steelers' defense is. But I think this is going to be Aaron Rodgers' last game of his career because he's retiring after this. I think he's going to put on a show. And unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be enough considering the Bills have proven that they can beat anyone in the playoffs except for the Chiefs. So I think they're going to finally get to their first Super Bowl with Josh Allen. And then the Lions, I think this game is going to be one of the best games we see all year. And I could see the Packers winning it, but I just think the Lions are. I think because they're going to be at home and because of how they lost last year, they're going to have that chip on their shoulder like they always do. And I think they're going to win by 1 point. I actually think they're going to be down by 7 and then they're going to go for 2, which is unheard of in the playoffs. But Dan Campbell's going to do it because that's what he does. They're going to win by 1 point and get themselves to their first ever Super Bowl. And here we got Super Bowl 50. It's going to be the Lions and the Bills. I mean, the Bills aren't really the home team, but that's how the format is. Because the NFC team was home, so the AFC needs to be home this year. And yeah, this is going to be one of the best games we'll ever see. Probably one of the best Super Bowls we ever see. Both of these team offenses, the Lions have Jahmyr Gibbs, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Penei Sewell. They're loaded. And then the Bills have Josh Allen, James Cook, Dalton Kincaid. Josh Allen, in my opinion, is the best quarterback in the NFL. And I think he can get this roster to the Super Bowl. We'll see if he can win it, or we'll see if Jared Goff and the Lions will win it. And the winner of this game is going to be the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be them. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. These teams both have the capability to put on a very fun game. And 41-38 is my final prediction for the Super Bowl. And whether that requires overtime or whether both teams are talented enough to get these many points in the fourth quarter or however it's done, I think this is going to be the score. And I think what it's going to come down to is which quarterback do you trust more? Do you trust Josh Allen or Jared Goff more? And I obviously trust Josh Allen more as I have them winning the Super Bowl. And I wouldn't be shocked if the Lions won, but I just trust Josh Allen a lot. And I think people kind of don't give him the credit he deserves in the playoffs because of how much his own team, blunders against the Kansas City Chiefs. And, I mean, that's not really in his control. And I feel like he's going to win his first Super Bowl. And, yeah, I think this is how the season's going to go. And if you watch this video, I appreciate you for watching it. And I will have a video out on the NFL awards, MVP, OPOY, Coach of the Year, things like that. I'm going to have that video out in the next 1 or 2 days, so stay tuned for that if you're interested. And if you're still watching, appreciate you, and I'll see you in that video. Peace out.